Seeing Saddam smile like that, I'm just saying it. He looks like a charismatic guy. Hey, what up, everybody? Hope you're having a great day. My name is Jay, and you're watching Clouded Reactions. So, Sabaton history, Desert Storm. I'm here. You guys are here. Let's just hop right on in. Tell me how I almost forgot about the headphones. Even though it's probably not necessary. I mean, we gotta hear yo. Man, I forgot. I forgot his name. Wow. Alright, let's just do it.
Operation Desert Storm was one of the largest international land battles fought since the Second World War.
And our song Reign of Terror is about that battle.
That's why the headphones help. They still put a little some in the videos. Some ear candy.
Between 1980 and 1988, the war between Iran and Iraq raged in the Persian Gulf. And it was a terrible, merciless war, with poison gas used against civilians and child soldiers fighting and dying by the thousands. The U.S. and many Western nations, among other states in the world, had chosen to support the Iraqi military with money and weaponry, as it seemed that Saddam Hussein, the Ba'ath Party dictator of Iraq, was a preferable ally against the spreading influence of Islamic fundamentalist revolution of the Iranian mullahs. However, the Iran-Iraq war ended in a draw and did not resolve any questions about hegemony in the region. What Iraq was left with was an enormous amount of foreign debt. Its reserves were depleted, the inflation rate was increasing, and the Iraqi financial situation deteriorated to the point where an economic collapse seemed to be just around the corner. A major problem was Iraq's rather monolithic economic structure, meaning that it was fully dependent upon its oil output. So, because inter-Arabian rivalry and Saddam's notoriety in the region prevented Iraq from cooperating.
Seeing Saddam smile like that, I'm just saying it. He looks like a charismatic guy. He really does. If I didn't know his background, he looks like, I'd probably, pick his brain over some dinner, I guess all good dictators are pretty charismatic. They gotta be.
With others in the region, the only solution seemed to be to sell more oil. Thing is, though, what Iraq was also left with was a relatively modern and well-equipped army. Saddam could call upon a total army of 1 million active troops, of whom the experienced and battle-hardened Republican Guard was the most dangerous, and another 850,000 reserves. With 750 fighter jets, Iraq also had the 6th strongest air force in the world at the time. Thousands of tanks and artillery pieces, and officers trained after Soviet and British models made the army a serious threat to its neighbors. One such neighbor was little Kuwait to the south. Kuwait was already a thorn in Hussein's side, as its overproduction of oil helped flood the market and lower prices, to which the Iraqi dictator responded with a series of pressure and threats. But after these failed, Saddam Hussein gave the order for invasion. On August 2nd, 1990, 7 Iraqi divisions crossed the border into Kuwait, overrunning any resistance and securing Kuwait City and the Kuwaiti oil fields. In just 9 hours, Saddam Hussein had presented the international community a fait accompli. Seemingly overnight, all of Iraq's problems were gone. By annexing Kuwait, it would not only pay off its debt to foreign creditors with Kuwaiti money, but would also control 20% of the world's oil deposits.
The sky is on fire, burning like gold. Ice on the west side to east. Driven by greed and urge to destroy, merciless killing your own.
While the rest of the world was stunned by Hussein's unpredictability, Iraqi forces marched to the border with Saudi Arabia. Now confronted with the possibility that Iraq might continue its offensive and incorporate the Saudi oil fields and strategic airports as well, the whole international community got together to act. Saddam's attack against the integrity and the sovereignty.
I wonder what made them think that Saddam was going to continue pushing, though. I wonder if he had dropped hints, or maybe he attacked some Saudi Arabian controlled areas where they thought, okay, he's actually going to keep pushing. Or did they just figure that's what he was going to do, so they ended up, but did they not get together and sit him down to try to talk to him first? Or they just assumed that he was going to go full blown, you know, not Hitler mode, but like just try to take over everyone around him, not just Southern, but like they said, Saudi Arabia and other neighbors. I wonder, you know, I wonder if they're gonna actually say it in the video.
Of the Kuwaiti state did not only bring about a Western anti-Iraq coalition, it also agitated fellow Arabian countries as well, and even the Soviet Union, busy at the time with what would turn out to be its dissolution, approved of intervention. While the U.S. bolstered the defenses of their partners in the region, the UN Security Council made it clear that Saddam's invasion would have direct consequences. Already that month, UN resolutions went into effect, and on November 9th, American President George Bush ordered 200,000 troops to the Gulf, a number that would increase to 540,000. Phase 1 had already begun, Operation Desert Shield, by building a defensive belt at the Saudi Arabian border with Patriot missiles and long-range artillery. The coalition forces from 34 nations could deter any Iraqi attack while still reinforcing and building up. Phase 2 would be Operation Desert Storm. Since Saddam Hussein refused to withdraw his forces voluntarily, he would have to be removed from Kuwait by force.
So, okay, so wait a minute. So did he not show aggressive signs then that he was going to try to like attack Saudi Arabia and other places around him? Or was it the fact that, hey, we saw what you did at Kuwait, remove your soldiers, and he was like, nah, and that's what started everything? Oh.
The operation would first achieve air superiority and then systematically destroy Iraqi offensive capabilities, especially from the feared Scud missiles with their potential of launching biological and chemical weapons. On the night of January 16th and 17th, 1991, Desert Shield turned to Desert Storm.
Sooner or later we'll get to.
Massive coalition aircraft attacks from the airfields in Saudi Arabia and a barrage of 220 cruise missiles destroyed the Iraqi early warning systems and anti-aircraft batteries.
You know, Saddam must have felt like he was on top of the world. Then he realized, holy crap, we're not as technologically advanced as, you know, as we thought we were. You know, we're given all this equipment. And then a superior force just comes and just blinds you. Like, you can't see nothing. Dang, what a way to bring somebody back down to reality.
Coalition jets with computerized and anti-aircraft batteries. Modern coalition jets with computerized target systems obliterated the inferior Iraqi Air Force and most of its airfields and communication systems. On January 25th, though, Saddam Hussein retaliated by opening the crude oil depository at Nuba Ak Amadi into the Gulf and setting 600 oil production facilities and tankers ablaze. This was a new form of ecological warfare with disastrous consequences for the environment, but it was actually mostly a political statement. Saddam wanted to hit the West where it hurt the most. On February 17th, the battlefield preparations began. The clearing of mines, the artillery bombardments on Iraqi strongpoints, and the destruction of the last remaining logistical capabilities took 38 days. Now, with most of the Iraqi Air Force and command systems destroyed, the coalition Air Force changed their targets to ground forces. Now, this was a battle the Iraqi soldiers could not hope to counter. At its end, the Iraqi ground forces were weakened by up to 50%, and as many as 4,000 tanks and armored vehicles, as well as 1,000 heavy artillery pieces, had been destroyed.
Wow.
The intense tactical bombing incapacitated many Iraqi units, while the further strategic bombing from U.S. Navy and Marine Corps aircraft off the coast destroyed Iraqi infrastructure. Now,
and those ships, man, when those bombs land, they're pretty pinpoint accurate. I don't know about back then, 2000. I'm pretty sure it's pretty accurate too, because today they are scary accurate.
Now with the enemy weakened to such an extent that only light casualties could be expected, the ground war could finally begin. Way more than half of Iraq's overall strength had been completely wiped out. Damn. By feigning a frontal attack between the coast and Minagish, the remaining Iraqi forces were tied down all along the Wadi al-Batin. After artillery punched gaps into the final Iraqi anti-tank barriers, large columns of armored vehicles drove towards the entrenched Iraqi forces on the left flank of the Wadi al-Batin.
I'm sorry, that looked cool. The tank just rolling in. It's like, we're coming for you. All you can do, I mean, all the tanks are pretty much smashed, or at least half of them, they said. 4,000 tanks. I don't know how much they had total, I forgot. But just seeing a whole army, a whole brigade of tanks coming your way, and it's like, well, I guess we'll pew-pew them. Not much we can do about it. How demoralizing. Wow.
Final Iraqi anti-tank barriers, large columns of armored vehicles drove towards the entrenched Iraqi forces on the left flank of the Wadi al-Batin. Leading the way was the 1st U.S. Cavalry Division, supported by attack helicopters, while special ops and paratroopers were dropped behind the lines. The morale of the regular Iraqi forces was by now really low. They'd been abandoned by their leadership in trenches for months. They were constantly short of water. They even resorted to cannibalizing their own tanks and vehicles to make lamps and...
I thought he was going to say something else. Okay.
They even resorted to cannibalizing their own tanks and vehicles to make lamps and heating equipment for their bunkers. They often offered little resistance after the...
Gotta appreciate a human ingenuity right there, you know? When you have nothing, you make something out of that nothing.
Lamps and heating equipment for their bunkers. They often offered little resistance after the first shots and surrendered. Soon, a coalition bridgehead of 15 kilometers was achieved, which would be extended to 70 already by the evening. While the right Iraqi flank was tied down by Syrian, Egyptian, British, and U.S. Marine Corps divisions, a forceful left hook was to punch through the Iraqi lines and then turn to the east and outflank and trap the Iraqi forces. Counterattacks by the remaining tank divisions of the Republican Guard were repulsed with relative ease by superior anti-tank measures of the coalition forces. The outdated T-72 tank was no match for the main American and British battle tanks, like the M1A1 with its better range, fire control, and armor-bursting ammunition. Apache AH-64s with night vision and laser-controlled Maverick or Hellfire missiles, they made short work of hidden or entrenched tanks. In short, it wasn't much of a battle, and 4 Iraqi divisions were completely overrun, more than 14,500 prisoners taken. 500 prisoners. 4 Iraqi divisions were completely overrun, more than 14,500 prisoners taken. The second day began with more air attacks against the Iraqi supply lines near the Euphrates, towards Samawa and al-Nasiriyah, while the British and American armored divisions further advanced. The coalition used complex combined arms operations, and by carrying small, lightweight global receivers, High Command knew exactly where their troops were at all times.
Man, the command center or the command room, everything's probably all chaotic. All you hear is people going, just chattering out amongst each other. But everybody's doing their part. They're all doing something. They all have a purpose. It seems chaotic on the third, in a outside perspective. But if you're in there and you're trained, you're not even sweating it. You're just doing your job, and because you're able to do your job correctly, this other team can do their job correctly, and vice versa. That's...
Wait, global receivers, High Command knew exactly where their troops were at all times. So the armored left hook continued, while on the right, Marine Corps divisions were further securing key positions in front of Kuwait City. 13 more Iraqi divisions were shattered that day. The third day's advance was accompanied by heavy rain and thick sandstorms. This hampered the advance enough for the still dangerous Republican Guard to act. Now, it was impossible for them to effectively stand up to the coalition forces, not just because of the technology gap, but they were still able to delay the advance with courageous firefights until most of the forces in the east could retreat northwards before they could be encircled. The 1st Marine Division successfully captured Kuwait City Airport and by the evening cleared the capital of all enemy forces. Large columns of Iraqi prisoners were everywhere. By the 4th day, the main battle was basically over. Mopping up operations took care of the Iraqi troops' final resistance until an armistice at 8 a.m. the following day ended the fight for Kuwait. In just 5 days, the coalition overran 33 Iraqi divisions and cleared all of Kuwait from enemy forces. Although they had failed to effectively encircle and eliminate most of the Republican Guard, who had managed to withdraw along the coast towards Basra, they had destroyed most of the Iraqi heavy equipment and taken more than 69,000 prisoners. The overall aim of destroying Iraq's offensive capabilities had been achieved. After 1,000 hours of war in the air and 100 hours on the ground, the coalition had defeated one of the largest armies on the planet, which you can either see as a masterpiece of organization, planning, and execution, or
Oh God, I was about to say. Oh wait, hold on.
as a one-sided slaughter where the technological and air warfare capability was nowhere near on the same level. The Iraqi military was never able to go on the initiative or to strike back with reserves. Everything the coalition did was faster, better coordinated, and more destructive. It was the dawn of a new age of technological warfare, where computer and satellite-aided weapons and electronic devices made an enormous difference. Although this was not the end of Saddam Hussein, nor the threat from his regime, the liberation of Kuwait was a prime example of what the United Nations could achieve if they actually agreed on a course of action, even if it was peace through superior firepower.
Feet after feet, mile after mile, allies regaining control. Your cities have ruined, some people in need. Still you go on as before.
Man, could you imagine the feeling of like your city was overrun by these outside forces, and you're probably like hiding or you're doing whatever you can to survive. Then all of a sudden another army comes in and rescues it. Destroys that army that is keeping you down and hostage or whatever. Just that feeling of just like freedom. Seeing these tanks with other flags other than the ones that took over you in the first place. That overwhelming sensation of just joy. I mean, you're probably smiling, you're crying, you're laughing, God, the mix of emotions, man. I can only imagine. And my God.
Okay, Reign of Terror. Now it's interesting when we cover songs that are about more recent history, I suppose. For many of us, living memory. So, tell us a little bit about that, about choosing these topics.
It's pretty tricky actually, because we found that whenever we're talking about current events, there's a very big risk of bias thanks to media and everything. So we try to avoid it these days. I mean, this is back in 2004 or something. We recorded this album, and I don't think we would have done it again, or do something that recent, now.
Okay.
Because I mean, obviously, when we did this, then and wrote the song, it was about 10 years since it happened. I would say it's barely enough time. Usually, for us, it feels like it doesn't become interesting or reliable enough until historians have gone through it, until the soldiers have come back and told their stories.
It's often difficult to see its effect until any war, any battle, until years later to see. It may have some positive or negative effects that you just don't see at the time.
Yeah, and also a very important thing to say is to hear both sides of the story, because as something is going on, you are usually going to get media coverage from one of the combatants.
Well,
mostly.
This was the age of televised war. And I remember first with the first Gulf War, when I was living in New York then, and you'd be at a bar with someone, it'd be like 10 or 11 at night. You want another drink? Nah, I'm gonna go home and watch the war. And you'd go home and watch it live and stuff. And that was what you could do. And of course you could still do it here in 2003, 2004. And it is interesting how the perspectives change. And you can see a lot of that with a lot of historiography. I mean, we talked on the Great War, we talked a lot about how perceptions have changed of everything about it over the last 100 years. But what about the song itself?
Oh, a bit of a little bit harder song that we do. And I have a very weird memory about it, because I remember we had a show in Orsa.
Okay.
Very, very small town.
Yeah.
And it was a very small show. And I don't know how long we played, but we were playing in a basement. This must be around 2003 or 4.
Okay.
And we had the music, but we didn't have the lyrics, but we wanted to play the song.
Yeah.
So we pretty much improvised everything.
So do you remember how any of it happened to go?
We pretty much improvised everything.
So do you remember how any of it happened to go?
I think I have probably, well, chosen to forget it.
I can see how
Repressed
that
memory.
goes. But how long before the lyrics did you have the music then written for this?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe a couple of months.
Okay.
I mean, we've done it before. We did the song Metalizer the first
Oh,
time.
yeah, sure,
We
yeah.
did that without lyrics. The first time we did the song Nuclear Attack live
Yeah.
was also, we only had the choir parts, of course, when we sing harmony vocals.
Right.
We had something and the rest was improvised.
Well, then, can we look forward? I mean, after your next album, the '90s R&B classic album,
Yes.
can we look forward to the smoky lounge jazz instrumental Sabaton album?
I would hope so. It would be
Okay.
amazing.
You know, I learned so much just doing this, you know, and I get the news. I mean, this is going to come out, you know, weeks after we shoot this. I get the news that you're going to do a smoky lounge jazz instrumental album before
We
those
should
people
ask
home.
these guys what they want, actually.
After this 90s are definite.
Yeah, obviously. But you guys, seriously, out of all strange music styles,
Yeah.
let's say everything from jazz lounge stuff to R&B to country, whatever it is, or
Or like
hardcore techno,
Gregorian chants.
Gregorian chants. What weird music style
What the heck is Gregorian chants?
would you like to hear a Sabaton song done?
I know in I think I'd like to see you guys do like a klezmer album.
What the heck is well, whatever that was, that made Joachim giddy as heck.
Hear a Sabaton song done?
I know I think I'd like to see you guys do like a klezmer album.
That would be amazing.
That'd be really good. If you don't know what klezmer is, just Google it.
He really got him with that. That's funny. Look at that.
That would be amazing.
That'd be really good. If you don't know what klezmer is, just Google it. Look up some klezmer songs.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Because there's two rules when you see a klezmer band. One, the song is never allowed to end. And two, it has to keep getting faster and faster and faster the entire time. I don't know how they do it, but it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
If there's a good song that depicts exactly what he said, and you guys kind of like vibe with it, where it's not too much, but it's like, oh, they made it work. Please let me know in the comments. I'll give that a shot too.
Now, there's the thing. When klezmer really became, you know, different music you associate with different generations. You know, when 20s you had jazz really breaking through worldwide and stuff. You got rock and roll in the 1950s and stuff. Punk in the late 70s. In the 1880s and early 1890s, you know, klezmer was the thing. You know, there would be the hottest new clubs were like Klezmer Club. That'd be an awesome time to go visit.
It's worth to remember as well. With music and anything else, something that's you know, the new hot thing might 100 years later be a classic. Or,
Yeah, sure.
you know.
Well, anything. I mean, minuets were the hot thing for a while in the 1700s. Any musical style has had its breakthrough, cutting edge, nobody's done this before kind of style.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's really interesting. All right, well, is that it for us today?
That is it for today. We got off topic, but that's fun.
That's okay. Well, we'll see you next time on Sabaton History.
Bye bye.
Genocide you cannot justify. Yeah, now it's time.
Man, how old is that guy?
Justify.
Look at that. Look at that young face, man.
Yeah, now it's time. Ancient legacy of crime.
All right, and here's some cool stuff going. We're gonna do our older albums with the History Channel editions. That's got indie speaking. It's cool as I can't say that word. Anyway, you should become a Patreon because then you can get that stuff. See you soon.
Is that his name, Indy? Huh. I completely forgot. That doesn't even sound normal to me right now. Indy. Okay, so a lot of the details I didn't really remember too much. I remember the gist of it, but yeah, a lot of the details. Back when I was a kid, like I said, I was younger, and since I think it happened when I was 13. If it happened in 2004, then I was 14. So of course that wasn't in no history books until I don't even know if that's in the history books now. I should ask my nephews and my nieces since they're in school. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the reaction. I certainly enjoyed the video. Oh, I just love it. Even if it's my history or other people's history, I just like history. And yeah, I don't remember most of it for like I'll watch something on history. Then maybe like 3 months later I'll watch the same video again. Where it's like a lot of it I forgot. Not a lot of it, but like half, you know. There's some details where like I forgot, like, oh yeah, that happened. But I remember the gist where if I talk to somebody, I can kind of keep up a conversation. Anyways, that's it for today. Hope you guys stay safe out there, stay blessed, and I'll catch you on the next one.